and a historian of modern South Asia. Our panel today is entitled In Search of Homeland. It will engage the poetry of someone who has gained international acclaim and who truly sounds out our theme of attachment to place in a world of nation-states. Bejan Matur was born in the ancient Hittite city of Marash. She is a graduate of the Ankara University Faculty of Law and eventually became a pioneering figure in contemporary poetry as someone who is fluent in Kurdish, her native language, along with Turkish and English. Her poems have been translated into 44 languages and have received numerous awards. Her articles, essays, and poems have comprised 11 books, 9 of which are devoted purely to poetry. Her body of work bridges poetry and politics and encompasses many pressing issues of interest to this symposium: nationalism and identity, family displacement and human rights, conflict and conflict resolution. The titles of her books by themselves convey the passion and intensity with which she straddles multiple worlds: the human, the ecological, religious, and spiritual. Among these titles, which I will express in English, are Winds Howl Through the Mansions, The Suns Reared by the Moon, Temple of a Patient God, How Abraham Abandoned Me. The art critic and novelist John Berger wrote that it is, quote, impossible to describe Bejan Matur's poetry in prose. Its verbs have no tense. Its prepositions are like nouns. Its own nouns are cries. Its aim is to outwit nonsense by outflanking it. It does so. It succeeds. The reader does not follow word by word, but hand in hand to touch and recognize piece after piece in the dark. The journalist Anahit Poturian writes, Bejan writes in a country whose leaders are unkind to dissenters or free thinkers, especially those remembering the ghosts of the country's past. Her poetry is mystical and tragic as she unearths and acknowledges the concealed secrets seen by the stones and poplar trees. Evoking pagans and gods of lost times, she breathes new life to the village, nature, and forgotten parts of history with her words. It is not uncommon for her poetry to be accompanied by music. Such collaborations have been staged at the Royal Opera House in King's Palace, London, and at Princeton University. In 2012, her book, How Abraham Abandoned Me, became the recommended translation for spring 2012 by the Poetry Book Society, founded by T.S. Eliot. Bejan Matur currently lives between Berlin and Istanbul, and we are delighted that she could come to Boston and share her poetry with us today. Responding to Bejan Matur today is Roberta Micallef. Dr. Micallef is professor of the practice in world languages and literatures at Boston University, who teaches courses on modern Middle Eastern literature, modern Middle Eastern film, Turkish literatures, and travel literature, and is an active member of the Turkish language teaching community. She has served as the executive secretary and the president of the American Association of Teachers of Turkic Languages. Micallef's scholarly works reflect her interest in foreign language pedagogy as well as literary studies. Her research resulted in publications about Turkish women and their agency, whether as political prisoners or travelers. Professor Micallef is the recipient of the Susan Jackson Award. Would you kindly join me in welcoming our speaker and our respondent? I thought you would. Oh, it's here.
There are empty seats in the front. It might be easier to see it here if you want to move forward. Please do so.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me. Thank you, Professor Lawrence and Clough Center. It is a pleasure to be here and share my poetry with you. When Jonathan Lawrence told me about the title of the symposium, I tried to think, and normally when I go to the festivals, I give a poetry talk, poetry reading, but recently during the pandemic, I revisited the places that inspired me, the places that I wrote my poetry. Most of my poetry was written in ancient places, ruins, in all around Anatolia. And me and the photographer, we traveled during the pandemic time, and I tried to create an image of these places. And along my reading, I would like to share some images. But at the beginning, there is a short, very short video. It's like 15 seconds only. And this place is the place that I wrote my book called How Abraham Abandoned Me. This is in Urfa. It's near Göbekli Tepe, which it goes back like 12,000 years, over 12,000 years. It's changed the all archaeological knowledge, what we know about archaeology. After Göbekli Tepe, everything is different. And this place is it's near Syrian border. It's called Somatar. And just first, let's see the video and then I continue. Oh, sorry. How to start? Yes, but again. Sorry. Yes, again. This video was shown in the Istanbul Biennale, the last Biennale. When I visited this place, and these girls who are living in this village, it was kind of hypnotic connection between me and them. They just come and accompany me. I was with the photographer, we were climbing to the hills to take some photos, to do the shooting, and they followed us. One of them was very young. I didn't want her to come because it was hilly and hard to climb, but she insisted, and I let her to come, and I was helping her sometimes. And when we finished the shooting, one of the girls was doing this with a piece of stone. She was knocking on the rock and creating a kind of sound. And I listened to her, and then I joined. I didn't think, this is not a mind things, it's just by heart. And just I joined, and then the other girls, they came, and we were like in a ritual, and we become like a part of, it's not only becoming part of nature, it is like becoming a nature. Between me and them, there was no empty space. We were like connected deeply. This is only a small example of the way I write. Usually, I use the place as a reference point to get beyond the physical dimension. Also, the political statements, beyond the political statements. For that, I use a kind of move. I need to walk. I walk a lot in the nature. And because through walking, through this move, I can use my intuitions more strongly. And then I can get beyond what I see. Because the scenery we see, the view, or the things they show us, to me, it's a frozen picture. There is meanings, there are layers. We have to get beyond that. This is how art is created. When I walk in the nature, first, poetry is based on sound for me. There are no words, no language, no grammar, nothing, only sound. It is like a music. I hear the music, and then in some point, the music become a kind of word. If I know how to write the musical notes, I would compose a symphony, musical symphony, but I'm a poet. I use words as a tool, and I made a poem. And most of the time, I feel the poem which weight me in a certain point of nature, and I walk towards the poem. On the way back, I pick my poem in my pocket, and then usually I have my notebooks and pen. I made the notes, and then usually I leave it for a long time because I don't want to. For me, it's very intimate to read it again. I just need the time to get disconnected with my first emotions, which are on the notebook. The process of my writing is that, like, I feel sometimes like a sculptor. I pick a part of piece of marble from the nature, which is sound, and then I leave it in my atelier or workshop, and then I carve it. This is the editing process. I start carving it, because the first part that I write is usually like, it can have some emotional expressions, some maybe cliches. I always try to be a very sincere and also kind of, I can say I'm cruel towards my writing. I carve and I throw it away. What I write, if I published everything I write until now, I would have 200 books maybe, but only I have 11 books. This is a very careful editing process. And as I said, going beyond the political statements, I come from a society which is a kind of minority in Turkey. I come from an Alevi family, which is a spiritual, they have a great spiritual tradition. Also, I grew up in a Kurdish town. My mother tongue is Kurdish. I am a bilingual poet, but as our language is still banned, we don't have right to have a education in Kurdish. My written language was Turkish, and my first poems I wrote all of them in Turkish. But recently, I start feeling like writing in Kurdish also. Because mother tongue, when they ban your tongue, your mother tongue, when you are connected with your mother's language, you are disconnected with your past. You are disconnected with your early childhood memoirs. You are disconnected with the environment that felt you safe. And this gap in your soul, it's never like, it's a deep trauma, and it cannot be healed easily. To me, to go back to Kurdish and writing Kurdish, it becomes a kind of therapy. It becomes a kind of reunion with my mother also. I want to give you an example for that. My first Kurdish poems I wrote, I was flying from London to New York. I wrote them over Atlantic. I was on the plane, and I wrote four short poems. This happened because I was giving a reading in South Bank Festival in London. All the audience, some of them, they came, they said, we didn't know Turkish sounds that soft. How beautiful language it is. And that was a compliment. I was happy to hear that, but I felt like this softness, it comes from my Kurdish also. Because in my Turkish, there is another layer. It has my Kurdish in it. And one day, I would like to show them the sound of Kurdish, how it sounds. It's not only Turkish language, what I created there. It has my emotions, my feelings, all these layers. My first idea was this, and then I was off to New York. I wrote these poems. When I was in New York, I called my mom. I said, Mom, do you know I wrote Kurdish poems in Kurdish. She said, really? Because my mom is illiterate. She never had an education. And she doesn't, her Turkish is very limited. And she was happy to hear that. And then she said, on the way back, come and read them for me, because my Turkish she doesn't understand. And when I went back, I read my poems for her, and then she was very proud, I felt the dignity on her face. She was very proud, and she said, one of the poem, it's called Chahpa. She said, when you say Chahpa, do you mean turn around you or come back? I said, I mean, come back. And she said, then it's vegere. It's not chahba. My illiterate mom became my editor. This is like to be understood by her and to be close to her in that level. It's a great healing. It is a healing process also. That's why I would like to continue writing in Kurdish, although I cannot compare my Turkish and Kurdish because my Kurdish is very limited. It's a real mother tongue. It's like very minimal, simple. I cannot create same images how I did in Turkish, but still, it made me more happy than the Turkish writing. And also, I would like to say, as I come from a very politicized identity, I never use political terminology in my writing, in my poetry, but my poetry remain very political. Because to me, being political in poetry is about changing people's view about you or your place or your people or universe, life. Great German poet Goethe once said, if you want to reach to the people's heart, speak from the heart. I think the key is to be sincere and speaking of your heart. And when I published my first book, it got 2 awards. And on the award ceremony, one of the head of the committee, award committee, he asked me, he was quite curious. He said, I tried to place your poetry in Turkish literary canon, but I couldn't find the connection, links. Where does this poetry come from? I'm really desperately need an answer, he said. I was like 28 years old that time. I never thought, I was not ready for such a question. But then my answer was, I said, if you want to understand my poetry and its connection, you must look at the places that I come from, the history, the layers. Because the place, to me, it's memory. It keeps the memory, and it keeps the untold stories. Although they were repressed by the authority, by the system, their language is banned. All these massacres, the cruel events happened in the past, and still they are happening. The geography keeps that as a memory. And as a poet, when I am there or some other corner in Anatolia, I feel the sound of the past. I feel like I hear the ancient choirs which speaks to me. That's why I love to visit these archaeological sites, to hear the sounds of dead languages, the sounds of ancient civilizations which were there once, and this unfolding, the physical dimension. It's the source of my poetry and also my connection with the place. Thank you. For the poetry reading? Yeah, it's better to stand.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Bejan Matur will read the poems in the original language, and I will read them in English. Please be aware that they're not in the order that you have on the sheet, so do not be alarmed. What? I do not see a light, but it does say on. It's dead.
Is that working now?
No, it's not.
Saroyan'a ağıt. Bitlis'in dağları kar içinde. Dağları Bitlis'in ah geçmişin. Bir adamın yurdunu ararken bulduğu taşlar taş mıdır sadece? Yas içinde bir kadın bir gömleği taşıyor. Acıdan bir gömleği anlatıyor bize. Bakın diyor dağlar hala soğuk. Bakın kartallar, geyikler ve meşe. Biz unutmadık. Göğsünde bir yastan kalan kederle yakıştın gecemize. Yakıştın toprakta büyüyen yalnızlığa. Senin dönüşüne bakıyorum ben, Bitlis'in dağlarına. Bir babanın kanlı başını süsleyen güllerin solmadığı zamana bakıyorum inatla. Ve biliyorum, aynı kelimeler aynı yerden söylense de aynı dağları, aynı vadileri anlatmaz. Ve nehri özlemenin aynı uzaklığa ulaşmaz. Şimdi bir müziğin her şeyi yenilediği bu sabah, bir adamın bir taşın karşısında oturmasıdır geçmiş. Harfleri okunmayan, kırık bütün taşlar gibi acı içinde bir taş. Ceplerine taş dolduran adamı hatırladın mı? Bir yurt arayan üzgün adamı. Onun yaslandığı duvar, onun baktığı rüzgar, taş toplamaktadır hala bellekte, bellekte taş sökmektedir. Çünkü ölümden daha büyük bir yol var önümüzde. Artık karları bağışlıyorum. Kışta tükenen soluğu, gidişi, artık her şeyi bağışlıyorum.
Requiem for Saroyan. The mountains of Bitlis are covered in snow. The mountains of Bitlis, oh, the past. The man looking for his homeland. Are the stones he finds just stones? A woman in mourning is carrying a shirt. She tells about a shirt filled with pain. Look, she says, the mountains are still cold. Look, eagles, oak trees, and deer, we haven't forgotten. With the grief from the lament still lingering in your chest, you befit our night. You befit the loneliness growing on the soil. I look to your return, to the mountains of Bitlis. I look stubbornly to the unfaded time of the roses dressing a father's bloody head, stubbornly. And I know the same words can't speak of the same mountains, and the river of longing will never reach the same valleys. Now, this morning, one music renews everything. History is a man sitting in front of a broken stone, a script whose letters cannot be read, like all broken hearts, a stone in pain. Do you remember? The man filling his pockets with stones, the desolate man looking for his homeland, the wall he's leaning on, the wind he's looking to, still gathering stones in the memory he's still dismantling stones. Because there's a journey ahead of us greater than death. Now I forgive the snow, the departure, the last breath drawn in winter. Now I forgive everything.
Thank you. Tören giysileri. Çürümüş, donuk kalbinde bu toprakların gözleri gördüm. Herkes sesiyle vardı ve duruşuyla gövdesinin. Bir insanı en iyi sevişirken tanırız. Kalbimizi birlikte çürütürken, ağırlaşan gövdemiz gece uyandırır. Mezar gibidir avlulu evler. Çocukluk bir uykudur, uzun sürer. Ve dokunmak için bir arzu sürükler bizi ölüme. Ben kendimi sınadığım her gövdede, ben kendimi bıraktığım her şehirde, içime aldığım göğünü ülkelerin ve boşluğunu görünce kalbimin, gitmeli dedim. Çürümüş tören giysileri içinde askıda salınan kökler. Biz denize düşürsek de ateşi o hep yanar. Issızlık bahşeder, karanlığa yanar. Tarih bir yanılgı olabilir diyor şair. İnsan bir yanılgıdır diyor Tanrı. Çok sonra bu toprakların kalbi kadar çürümüş bir sonrada insan bir yanılgıdır diyor Tanrı ve düzeltmek için varım ama geciktim. Ölü kızıl suyun dalgası, gece yürünen yol ve yolcuların da aldığı zavallı yeryüzü. Salınan beyaz kefenler, tören giysileri ve bir koşu için gerekli tek şey atın yelesidir. Asıl olan şimdi ve burada çürüyüp kaldık. Tanrı görmesin harflerimi. İnsan bir hata diyor durmadan ve hatasını düzeltmek için acı veriyor, sadece acı.
I just want to point out that this is Aramaic script carved into the mountainside. Ceremonial robes. In the cold, decayed heart of these lands, I saw eyes. Everyone was there with their voice and their body's pose. We know someone best while making love, when we corrode our hearts together. Growing heavy, our body wakes us in the night. Houses with courtyards are like graves. Childhood is a sleep, long-lasting, and a yearning to touch. A yearning drags us towards death. I tested myself in everybody. I abandoned myself in every city. I took the skies of countries to my heart, and when I saw the emptiness of my heart, I said it's time to go. Inside the moldering robes of ceremony, roots sway on the hanger. Even if we drop fire in the sea, it will burn forever. It burns, a gift of desolation to the dark. Perhaps history is a mistake, says the poet, mankind's mistake, says God. Much later, in a future corrupt as the heart of these lands, mankind's a mistake, says God. I'm here to correct it, but too late. The wave of red, lifeless water, the road followed at night, the poor earth strewn with travelers, the white swaying shrouds, ceremonial robes. The only thing needed for a race is the horse's mane. This is the truth. Now we are here, rotted away in a rut. God must not see the letters of my script. Mankind's a mistake, he keeps saying. And to correct this mistake, he gives sorrow, only sorrow.
Yaratılış. Dinle bak, dağlar oluşuyor. Yeraltı nehirleri çekiliyor içinin pıhtılaşmış kanına. Lapis bir damar, toz zerreleri. Belki bir rüzgar tanıyor yeryüzünü. Ağaçlara ve insana dokunup ölüyor rüzgar.
Creation. Listen and look. Mountains rise into being. Underground rivers shrink to sluggish inner blood. A lapis blue vein, atoms of dust. Perhaps only a wind knows earth. The wind touches trees and humans and dies away.
Bir ağıtsa bu. Olmayan bir ülkeden söz ediyorlar. Olmayan dilden, kardeşlikten. Konuşma yok, yok kelimeler. Anlaşılmak içinse yeryüzü kim ölümü anlatacak? Dağların aldığı nefesi, çöken karanlığı kim anlatacak? Bir çocuğun rüyasında büyüyenleri kim? Kuşların kanatları eski bir masaldan bana doğru çırpınıyor. Eski kadınların anlattığı tenin taşa yakınlığı. Belli ki bir ağıtçıyım ben. Karanlık çöktüğünde dağların ötesinde kimi ansam bakıyor bana acıyla. Bu bir ağıtsa ağlamak henüz başlamadı.
If this is a lament, they speak of a land that never was, a non-existent tongue. There is no utterance, no words. If we're put on earth to understand each other, who can make sense of death? Explain how mountains stole breath, or translate the darkness that has fallen. Who can say what burgeons in a child's dream? Flapping out of an ancient tale, birds' wings bear down on me and skin. Akin to stone, as the old women used to say, when darkness falls, beyond the mountains the people I remember look to me in pain. My words are elegy. If this is a lament, we haven't even begun to cry.
Sabır Tanrısının tapınağında konaklama. Yağmurlu dağların arasından gurbetini seçtin. Son gece beklediğin yer sabır Tanrısının eviydi. İnsanı merhametle donatmanın evi. Tapınaklara gerek yok dedim. Burası sadece bir yer. İnsanın ruhu tapınak kılınmalı ve yağmur, yersizliğin nehri, Tanrı'dan ve çocukluktan hatırlanan. Yağmurlu dağların arasından gurbetini seçtin. Yanılmanın güzelliği ve huzuru acının. Her şey seni bir boşluğa uladı ve sen sarı sabır çiçeklerine bakıp ağladın. Onun koynunda yokmuş gibi uyudun. Bir dağa gidilecek, gurbet seçilecek ve insan istenecek Tanrı'dan. Tekrar dinlemeli o müziği, sevişmenin tamamlanmadığı o yer.
Night spent in the temple of a patient God. You chose your exile among rain-swept mountains. Where you lingered last night was the home of the patient God, the home where a human is equipped with compassion. No need for temples, I said. This is simply a place. The human soul must surely be a temple. And rain, the river of homelessness, reminds us of God and childhood. You chose your exile among rain-swept mountains, the beauty of making mistakes and the peace of pain. Everything led you to emptiness, and you looked at the pale flowers of patience and wept. You slept in his arms as though nothing existed. There shall be a journey made to the mountain, and exile chosen, and a human wanted from God. We must listen again to that music. That place was not meant for loving.
Hakikat, taşların bildiği, insanın unuttuğu.
Truth, what stones know, humankind forgets.
Seven Nights. Her gece kandil. Her gece kandil dedi biri. Her gece kandil ve hasrete daha çok var. Neyi duymaktayız biz? Dün oturduğumuz avluda siyah olan gül bugün açmış ruhunu ve bir şey göstermektedir. Sular bir şey göstermektedir. Kuşların gülleri geçip kokan nefesi, sesi, senin soluğun olmaktadır hala. Buradaki her günahı temizledi senin güllere bakman. Senin isteğin göğün katında tartıldı. Bir melekten söz ederken şehir çok siyah. Budur meleği yükselten belki de dedim. Meleği yükselten ve kanatlarını kelimelere açan şehrin siyah oluşudur. Kuşkusuz zamandan konuşacağız. Bir çocuğun dereyi geçerken taşıdığı yükün bir kız kardeş olmasından ve küfürden, olmayan anneden, ölülerden, doğurmayan anneden konuşacağız, inkardan. Ne çok oldu. Merak yerini titremeye bıraktı. Zikrin bilinci kavuştu sana ve anne hatırlandı. Ölüler, bu gecenin ve sabahın kaç ölüsü var? Geçmişin ölümleri saymaya gelmez. Çünkü aramızdadırlar her an. Ruhları içimizde nefes almaktadır. Onların gözleriyle parlar ve kararır sular. Yalnız, yalnız bir bahçe. Bahçede unuttuğu masumiyet. Tavaf, tavaf, tavaf. Ey insan, tavaf edildiğinde kalan varlıktır, gecedir.
Every night is sacred, said one. Every night sacred. There will be many more nights of longing. And we, what do we hear? In the courtyard where we sat yesterday, the rose that was black opened its soul today, a revelation. And the waters, a revelation, the fragrant divine breath of birds flying past the rose, and their voice is your breath still in the making. When you look at the rose, every sin here is cleansed. Your desire was weighed in heaven. When I speak of an angel, the city is utterly black. I spoke of an angel, and perhaps, I said, the black nature of the city exalts the angel and opens its wings to words. Undoubtedly we'll talk of time, of the burden the child carried across the stream, of a sister, of a curse, of an absent mother, of the dead. We'll talk of a mother who didn't give birth, of denial. So much happened. Trembling replaced trouble. Enlightenment came. And do you remember the mother and the dead? And how many dead this night and morning? Impossible to count the deaths of the past, for every moment they are with us. Their souls breathe within us. The waters gleam and darken with their eyes. In a garden of forgotten innocence, circling round and round, O human creature, when the circle is completed, what remains is self and night.
Her kadın kendi ağacını tanır. Sana geldiğimde kanatlarımı siyah taşlarla örülmüş o ıssız şehrin üzerinde açacak, bulduğum bir ağacın dallarına tüneyecek ve acıyla bağıracaktım. Her kadın kendi ağacını tanır. Uçtum o gece. Karanlığın girmeye korktuğu şehri geçtim. Gölge olmayınca ruh yalnızdı. Uludum.
Every woman knows her own tree. When I came to you, I was going to open my wings over that deserted city built of black stones, and find a tree and perch on its branches and shout with pain. Every woman knows her own tree. That night I flew. I passed over the city that darkness feared to enter. Having no shadow, the soul was lonely. I howled.
Çocuk mezarları. Öldük işte. Kaydık karanlıktan. Kayın ağaçları da gördü, ufak taşlar da. Gece ve yıldızlar geçti üzerimizden. Gömüldük yol kıyısına.
Children's graves. So we died. We slipped away out of darkness. Beech trees saw us, and tiny stones. Night and stars passed over us. We were buried by the roadside.
This is my birthplace, my village, one of my oak tree. And the lands you see are our lands. Ağlayan bir yer. Bir yer ağlayarak girer uykumuza ve çıkmaz.
A place weeping. A place weeping enters our sleep and never leaves.
Thank you, Roberta. Now I want to read two short Kurdish poems, but I don't have the translation of them.
And I don't speak
Thank you.
Kurdish, sadly.
Yeah. Okay, also, I hope it's, yeah. Shave Rasha mine dilita, Shave Rasha mine kavri bani gole, Ez dizanım gotinata, Ez dizanım çuyineta, mine shave dilemin, her dişteki degri, Sırrı dilemin, mine shaven bina, birana. This was the night. And this is my mom's begere, chahpa. Zaki mene dabe, chahpa, chahpa, chahpa, vere hande min. Zaki mene dabe, mara, mara, mara, dur. Çiyeti jigurun. Hırs ketiye dileme, leçiyayeme, eters. Thank you.
Oturacak mısınız? Ayakta mı kalın?
Oturayım. Ya da ayakta kalayım. Fark etmez.
Size bağlı.
Ayakta kalayım. Fark etmez. Sen konuşmanı yap gelirim.
Okay. So I'm just going to say a few words and then open up the floor to your questions. I'm sure you have quite a few. First of all, many, many thanks to the organizers of this very rich symposium and for allowing me to share a stage with Bejan Matur, who has been rightly called, and I quote, the most illustrious poet among a bold new women's poetry emerging from the Middle East. Her poetry, as we have just heard, encapsulates a profound connection between the personal and the historical, the individual and the collective. her ability to weave together the threads of Mesopotamian mythology, shamanism, Islam, her ability to allow the trauma-laden ghosts of the past to live as a force in the present, to describe gently and compassionately the effects of devastation of nature on the human soul is truly remarkable. Her exploration of attachment to land, particularly in her collection Ibrahim'in Beni Terk Etmesi, Abraham's Abandoning Me, speaks to the human experience of longing for a sense of belonging and the pain of displacement. By delving into these themes with both sensitivity and resilience, she offers readers a window into the complexity of identity, memory, and loss. Her engagement with mysticism invites her readers to contemplate their place in the cosmos and their relationship with the divine. Through her poetry, Matur invites us into a dialogue with the broader questions of existence and meaning. So I have a whole bunch of different questions, but I'm going to start with one where Bejan Matur ended. She has told us, and in this very talk and in her poems, that the creative process for her it starts with sounds, listening to sounds, and then it turns into words, and then she sculpts the words into poems. And now that she's writing in Kurdish as well as Turkish, I wonder if the words that emerge are different in Kurdish and in Turkish. Like if you heard the same sound and produced a poem in Turkish versus in Kurdish, would it say the same thing?
In Kurdish, I feel, as I said, it's like a lullaby for me. It's more familiar, more like I connect it easily. It's more easy to get there in Kurdish. But in Turkish, it takes a kind of slow move. You have to, break this dimension and then get into this kind of sound. In Kurdish, I don't need this move. It's just there. It's in my mind. And when I feel the poem, it's ready. Yeah.
If we're going to stick to the timetable, have maybe 5 minutes left, and I hope that there are plenty of questions. So I'm going to go directly to you instead of continuing with my questions, so that the floor gets to ask questions. Any questions? Gentleman in the back.
Bejan Hanım, çok teşekkürler. Çok iyiydi. If you were to start publishing poetry in Kurdish, will you get into trouble in Turkey where Kurdish is still banned?
I'm always in trouble. I do need to publish Kurdish poems. Yeah, of course.
Please.
The idea of the poetry as an exile. The idea of poetry as an exile is very typical in my country, in Italy, because it unified very late, so it was divided in a way. It was existing only around the language. We could say we have spoken a lot today about this idea of the place, that words for you are a place where to return or where to feel at home.
Diye soruyor, sürgün konseptini arıyor. Sizin için şiir ve sözler ev gibi, aile evi gibi bir yer. Ondan.
To me, poetry is the only shelter that I feel at home. I think for all humanity it is like that. Without poetry I cannot. Çalışmıyor mu?
Çalışıyor. Can you hear the?
Can you hear?
Yeah.
Through poetry, world become home. We need this compassion, which is, you can create this with your heart, I think, this space, and make the, any place familiar through art in general. In my case, through poetry. And I'm more familiar because there is a kind of soul. In poetry, home is soul. I'm searching for the soul, as I'm a kind of spiritual poet. And that's why, as I said at the beginning, this shelter who makes us safe, I find this, my way of feeling safe is through poetry and poetic approach. Yeah.
Yes, please.
Thank you so much, Bejan. That was really touching and beautiful, and it's so interesting to see your work process. Thank you for sharing your process with us. I wonder if you might talk a little bit just about your own recent displacement from Istanbul to Berlin, and whether you think that Berlin has a special role to play in this century as a place of exile. Istanbul, for a decade or so, was its own kind of place of exile for people fleeing Arab autocracies and seeking political freedoms. And then I guess the tables kept turning. And now Berlin seems to be a place where people flee from autocracy. And I know that's more of a political topic, but I'm just interested in your thoughts on these cities.
Yeah. Yeah, Berlin become a kind of, how do you say, shelter for all the people who are not safe in Turkey. My story is same, but Berlin, to be honest, it was not my favorite place to go. I'm more a Mediterranean person. But then I thought it will be safer to be there. And it was a kind of calculation. It took a lot of time for me to decide, because before that I was in London. And then I went back to Turkey, but I couldn't feel comfortable, safe. Many things happened. My book, literary journalism book, Looking Behind the Mountain, is still banned. Now and then, there is something happen about me, and I was not safe. When the doorbell is ringing, you think of, okay, who might be? That's why I choose Berlin. I have good friends, really. One of them is our common friends. And yeah, as a writer, as a poet, I need a place which is safe and I can concentrate on my work, on my writing. This is what I need, and Berlin was a very practical choice. Yeah.
Please, gentleman in the back.
Thank you for the reading. Your remarks called to mind an experience 4 decades ago or so, the great Russian poet Joseph Brodsky talking about his attachment to the Russian language. And he said to the extent that he had any patriotism, it was to the language. And just hearing you talk about especially Kurdish, but also working through both Turkish and Kurdish, and then your earlier remarks about the politics that is always close to or central to the work that you've produced. I wonder how you reflect on that kind of Brodsky thought of a patriotism to a language, or the attachment to language as a way of working out sense of affiliation and meaning.
Şey demek istiyor değil mi? Tam olarak ataerkil dil.
Dile bağımlılık ve vatanperverlik arasındaki bağlantı.
Brodsky ne diyordu?
Could you repeat what you said about Brodsky?
Or just that his patriotism, to the extent he had any patriotism, it was to the Russian language.
Vatanperverliği Rus dilineydi.
my connection with the language is a very existential kind of connection. That's why still my English is very limited. I couldn't live abroad long time because I'm missing the language, the sound of the language, because I live with this sound. And both in Turkish and Kurdish, and that's why I call my mom very often to hear the Kurdish. I think, to me, what is important as a writer, as a poet, is the language, the quality of the language, to be human is to have a language. Otherwise, we are not complete. That's why language have a very severe role in our existence. For me, this is more and more important. And also, I think language are important than flags. This is what I can say.
Can we have one last question? People have been flashing signs at me saying, time's up, time's up. One last question.
I was, first of all, thank you. Thank you for this wonderful gift that you gave us. I want to ask you about the comment you made about writing 11,000 poems, but cutting out, editing some to 11 books. Or what do you edit out from your writing?
I did journalism for 10 years. I was writing a column daily, 3 times a week. Even on my daily columns, I was trying to write something very new, which is not exist before, even in the daily politics. In my poetry, the first things I wanted to carve and throw it out is raw emotions and suffer. Because speaking of suffer or pain, to me, it's not enough. Of course, there are pain. We suffer as human. Some of us suffer more. But what do you take it out from this suffer? The poet must come with a solution, which is kind of catharsis. And to describe the what happened is not a great literature to me. Great poetry or great literature must come with something new for us, something that can change our chemistry, our view of universe. And that's why when I don't edit some of them because they are ready. They are just like, for example, the Abraham book, I wrote it in 40 days. It was like something, just spell on me, just it came. I didn't edit much. It was the order in the book is exactly, I still keep the notebooks, of course. And if you follow the notebooks, exactly, very few editing I did. This was ready. Sometimes, if I am really channeling myself into this space, then poetry comes as it is. But sometimes it's not possible always. That's why these raw emotions, cliches, if I have, the things that reminds me this was told before by someone or by me, I have to carve it out. And And my reference is my heart. When I read it, if I feel something in my heart, then it's good poetry, then it can reach to the others.
Please join me in thanking Bejan Matur.
Thank you, Roberta. Thanks.
And I'm sure we can continue discussing during the reception.
Thank you for your question. Sorry, I didn't.
No, don't worry. So,
Yeah.
may I ask you an autograph for my friend Camilla in Rome?
Oh,
She likes a lot your work. She recommended me to bring this.
great.